Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Maddy Wright from the Clark Penguins up in the Pacific Northwest. How are you, Coach?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Doing well, thanks. I don't know if we could be much farther away from each other right now, as I'm in Bradenton, Florida, and you're way up in the Northwest, but I'm guessing our weather days are slightly different as well.
Thankfully.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on, and so let's just kind of jump right into it. Um, you guys are a two-year college up there, so I know it's harder because you got to reload twice as much as a four-year school. So when is it that you're really starting your talking to players and trying to get them excited about your school and try to bring them in? Is it junior year, later? What does that kind of look like?
A little bit later for us.
Yeah.
Typically their senior year. Try to make it out to as many high school games as possible. I coach within club too, so that's helpful as well. I'm either coaching players or coaching against players as well. And yeah.
Okay. Well, when uh when you're in club or even when you're not, are you talking to other coaches, either high school coaches or club coaches, to try to help that recruiting process as well?
You have to, right? Um, Especially this upcoming year. I want to say we have about 14. Well, the good thing about COVID was that we had players decide to come back for their third year, which is super rare at the junior college level. They want to utilize that extra year with us. So uh, good for us this year. But then next year we have a lot of players to replace and some really, really big shoes to fill also. So want to get ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah. Well, where do you like to spend a majority of your time recruiting? Whether is it high school, is it tournaments? What kind of tournaments? If you go to those, where do you usually like to be seen looking at players?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit of all of that. I mean, I coach with Washington Timbers, so that's literally right here in our neighborhood. We train at their facilities, so that's pretty much home for us, right? So we're constantly seeing players, or as they're coming into club training, where they see us training also. So it's pretty easy to get exposure in that sense. We also host some showcases. Luckily for me, I'm also the college coordinator at the club too. So I'm in communication with players. I'm in communication with four-year universities as well. So I have pretty good ties with them. So that's good for our Clark players moving on and everything in between.
We are excited to be part of Podcast Row at the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to the 15th, and we hope we will see you there. The convention is the ultimate event for soccer coaches, administrators, and fans of the beautiful game. Ignite your passion through captivating presentations, on-field demonstrations, exhibits, and networking events for coaches at the youth, high school, college, and pro levels. Whether you are attending alone or bringing the whole coaching staff, there's no better place for soccer coaches to learn, network, and experience the latest trends in soccer education. Register now for the lowest possible price. Visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register. We can't wait to see you all in Philadelphia. Okay. Well, do you guys do any camps there at the college, or do you yourself coach other folks' camps? How does that fit in?
Yeah, so that's something I definitely want to start. I mean, that's definitely big at the four-year level, right? I've had experience in that sense there and want to try to bring that here to Clark as well. It hasn't historically been done, but looking to add that probably this year, actually.
Okay. Um, Do you guys look to international recruits at all? Is that something you guys are big in, or is it primarily regionally around the school?
So historically, it's been regionally. I think things will change quite a bit within probably a year or so, right? As I'm trying to get my footing in terms of like the scholarship packages and everything in between, kind of using my previous networking, right? I got hired in February, so that was kind of a quick turnaround for internationals. That would have been an absolute nightmare with visas and everything in between, but definitely would love to get some internationals in the mix.
Okay. Now, one thing, that is usually attractive to the junior college route is is the financial part of it. Can you just give me an idea, and I'm not holding you to hard numbers here, but just give me a rough idea of what an average student athlete is walking into in terms of cost, and what does some of the scholarships look like, whether it's athletic money if you have it, or academic money, kind of what it, or what's the financial aid situation just overall look like at the school?
Yeah. So through the NWAC, right, we're able to offer out what's called scholarships and then waivers as well. So the most we're able to amount to with that is 65% of tuition, right? In conjunction with that, right, whatever they receive from financially, whether that's Pell, we also give out foundation scholarships, right? So that is essentially just a grant that's given to the institution. You write an essay as to why that would be a valuable resource to you, and majority of our players do get it and they take advantage of that, and we're super thankful for that. So there's majority of our players, to be quite truthful, walking away with paying nothing.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, when it comes to those players, besides the financial part of it, what are you looking for in a player? What kind of makes somebody, you know, makes you write their name in your book and hope to follow up? What kind of attributes, whether that's on the field or off the field kind of stuff, are you hoping to have in a player at Clark?
Yeah, they're a really special group, honestly, and all credit to the culture that's been built coming in before me. And then for me, it's just a matter of enhancing that culture. But I think that's our competitive advantage, and it has been for years, right? Um, Even when we were in the South Conference, our scholarship matrix was a little bit different, right? Now we're in the West, so we're going against Washington schools, which are all on the same level with us as far as scholarship. We're all even. So as far as that, for us, it's just the competitive advantage of our culture. And it's why we have culture meetings pretty frequently, and they're player led. And to me, those are the things that we're looking for, players who are looking to step in and not just be part of a soccer program. It's you're part of something much bigger than yourself. Like we're pretty well connected with our alumni. We're intentional in having alumni on our staff almost every year that I've known Clark, right? And a big part of that is remembering like these are our ties. We're here today because of the work that was done before us.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, you talk about alumni. Let's talk a little bit more about the school itself. So, I know you've just been there since February, but kind of what have you learned so far? What are the awesome things about Clark that maybe I'm not going to find just by clicking around the website?
I'd say community, right? I think it's funny. It was one of my interview questions, right? What's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear Clark? And community it is for me. I'm going to Fred Meyer. That's our grocery store here. I think you guys probably have something else, something
Yeah.
maybe cooler. I go to the grocery store and I see a million kids with Clark shirts on, like little kids walking around. Either they've come to our kids camps in the past or whatever it may be, but everyone knows Clark. And um, the other day at our game, you could constantly see multiple different generations on the sidelines watching our games. There's some really, really, really young kids. There's some really, really older people, and they're still connected as well, which is special.
No, that's great. Well, one thing going into college and playing, it's a bit different for every high school kid when they're first coming in. So, how do you help the students kind of balance the academics with the athletics? Kind of what support systems does the school offer to help that as well?
Mhm. So actually, one of my positions in the past at another college I worked at was an academic counselor as well. So I have that background. So we're pretty hands-on with that. Kind of have to be. It's a different aspect, right, of being a part of a program that they're not maybe used to from college or club. So just kind of walking them through that you can't play without this part of it, right? So just being able to maintain, we do grade checks pretty frequently. We have study halls as well. And like I said, I think the girls are just special in and of themselves. They hold one another accountable. It's peer to peer mostly.
Okay. Well, what does you're in the middle of the season right now, or the early parts of it at least. So, what does a typical week look like for a player? In terms of what time do they get up? When are classes, meals, practice, games? What does an average week look like?
Day in the life.
Yep.
Right now, they actually haven't started school yet,
Oh,
which
okay.
is crazy. They start in about a week or so. So they're living the good life right now, just soccer. So they wake up right now. And during preseason, we had training a little bit earlier in the day. Right now, we're at our regular training schedule, which is at 3 o'clock. So game week looks like, so let's say we have a game Wednesday. The game Wednesday, um, Thursday would be a recovery day, right? Friday, match preparation day. Saturday game, Sunday off, Monday recovery, Tuesday match prep.
Okay. And so you practice in the afternoon, and classes are just kind of standard between 8 and 3, kind of normal stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of our players really utilize. I mean, there's some good things that have come out of COVID, but our class selection, right, is awesome, right? Pretty much almost every class you could take online if you wanted to, but if you wanted to take it in person, there's options for that as well. So never really run into that, thankfully.
Okay. Well, let's shift gears, talk a little bit more about the on the field stuff with the team there. So, is there a roster size you're trying to that you will want to hit each year? I know this year is a little different with third years and you being your first year, but let's just look forward to next year. Is there a roster size that you're going to try to hit?
So I think the magic number, and I want to say is going to be probably about like 25, 26,
Okay. Yeah.
ideally.
Okay. And then what about your staff? You mentioned having alumni on the staff. Kind of how big is your staff? What role does everybody play, and are there other support staff in the athletic department that help the team with things?
Yeah, I have the best staff, period. I've come from institutions even 4 years where I haven't been given assistance. So this is probably my first year actually having assistance, and it's been a world change for me. So one of my assistants, Kennedy, she's that heart, right? So the girls absolutely love her from a relational standpoint, also from an alumni standpoint, right? She's someone who's able to talk the talk because she's already walked it, right? And specifically in that program, set quite a bit of few records as well. So she has a high level of respect from the girls. And then Coach Randy. Coach Randy's been around the program for, I want to say about 5 years or so. He's also well connected with the club that I coach at as well. So we've had prior like coaching relationships beforehand. So it was a pretty smooth transition for me actually, in that dynamic with the two.
Okay, awesome. Well, how would you describe, earlier you talked about the culture team. So I was gonna say, how would you describe the culture of the team and then also your style of coaching and the team style of play?
Yeah. Um, if I was to ask the girls, right, what does our culture look like? How would we describe our culture? They would use the word viral, right? So what we do beginning of preseason, before we even step foot on the field, because it's pointless to step foot on the field until that stuff is established, right? So they typically try to create values, right, that spell out a word. So ours, ironically, has spelled that viral, and I think it's absolutely fitting. So V stands for vulnerability, I intentionality, R is resilience, A accountability, and L is loyalty, right? So in every day, right, we're pointing back to those values on game day. It's written all over their arms, right? But the biggest thing for us, and that we kind of really hammer home almost daily, is yeah, it's cool to have a really, I'd say, really really cool word that spells out our values, but at the same time, right, it's the daily living of it. It's the choices we make that are surrounding from it, even when it's difficult, right? So they're viral. We point out moments and we try not to lose out the moments that we can point it out. Hey, that's a viral moment, and they're on the field, they're off the field, it's everywhere. But they love each other. I remember the best way I could describe them is the other day I was pulling into training, and um, I pull into training, and one of them is sitting or standing, I don't know, she's pretty short, on top of her hood, blasting Justin Bieber like it's a concert, and they're all with their phones, waving their hands in the air. They're awesome. So
That's great. Now, what about your style of coaching and the team style of play on the field?
yeah. So for me, again, everything comes back to them as people first, right? So I spent a good bit of time those few months before season started, getting to know them as people with individual meetings, and everything in between, making sure that are they doing well as a person first and foremost, right? Yes, are they doing well as a student, right? Checking in on their mental health, that has been big those last few months, and then I think because of that core work, we are where we are right now, right? So for me, relationships are really important. And then as far as playing style, right? So I think everyone has their own ideal way to play, but for me, it's looking at personnel and looking at conference, right? So recognizing what everyone else in our conference is doing, and try to not do the same exact thing as everybody else. try to do something different, try to be brave and do something different, and also work around the personnel that we have.
Okay. Makes sense. Um, is there anything that you guys do in the off season? I know I'm kind of looking ahead here because it's only September, but let's say we get through Christmas and it's the spring or non-traditional season. What do you feel that that's going to look like for your team?
It's going to be massive, especially with all the returners probably moving on to 4 years at that point. It'll be a relatively smaller group, and I mean, I already started kind of preparing them for that right now, right? So we don't have captains, and the reason for that is everyone's expected to lead, everyone's expected to have a voice and share, and I think without having captains, it allows others permission to do so. So our freshmen have been stepping up and communicating and finding their voices. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to miss the returners tremendously, right? But I think we'll see a lot of more freshmen step up as well. And then what it looks like for us is they join WPSL teams during the spring and summer, and WPL teams during the spring and summer. We do a bit of weight room, continue with study hall as well. I think that's hammered home a lot. It's hammered in the fall, but definitely in the spring as well, because you don't have as many games to keep you intact, right? So that's a focus for us academics. But we do a lot of team bonding.
Okay. Well, you mentioned, students moving on to 4-year programs, and I know when it comes to players looking at potential junior colleges, that's like a key component, right? So, what can you just give me a little bit of I mean, I know you're just there, but kind of what's traditionally the path for a lot of players and how the school and you as the staff help them move on to 4-year programs if that's what they're looking to do.
Yeah, we had players move on every single year without fail. A lot of it has to do with the culture, right? A lot of it has to do with the relationships with the coaches as well in the past. For me, I'm excited to kind of start that process with our sophomores right now, especially me being with as a college coordinator, right? Having those relationships with 4 years, having already coached at 4 years as well. For us, it's those using those recruiting websites. We have Huddle as well, so using our highlights that are already created there and sending those out. But as far as typically where they fall, right? Usually NAIA D2 level, with a few exceptions we've had in the past with a few D1s as well. That's typically more or less where they fall. A lot of them, I'm trying to think of the ones this year. A lot of them this year like to stay on the West Coast, though.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
I would too.
Well, I prefer the West Coast as well, but the West Coast of Florida. But anyway, well, Coach, we've talked about a bunch of things, covered a lot of ground, and I always end these the same way, and that's what didn't we cover? What is it that you want to talk about, whether it's recruiting, the school, soccer, or anything else you want to talk about? I give you the carte blanche to answer or say anything you'd like.
No, they're all I could say honestly is they're a really special group, and I think those who get to be around them get to experience that. I mean, when I was coaching at the 4-year level, I would come around to their games. This is before I was coaching here, and I'm watching their sideline, right? And to me, that told me everything. And I was an outsider. To me, the way that their bench operates, the way that they're so for one another and they celebrate each other's successes and downfalls, for me, that said everything I need to know about them, even as an outsider. So I think others who are around them feel that. And I think those who get closer to our program experience that as well. And those are things that are important.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we wish you the best of the luck the rest of this season, and hopefully you can bring home that conference championship. And if you get out to the opposite end of the United States here in Bradenton, give us a shout. All right.
100%.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
See ya.
See ya.